The Brian Crabtree Show on Demand is brought to you by The Outlet Online. Huge savings on items you want. It's a big deal. TheOutletOnline.com. The Brian Crabtree Show, live in Atlanta, afternoon starting at 4 on Biz 1190, Biz1190.com, and the Biz 1190 mobile app. The Brian Crabtree Show.
Great to have you here on the program. At Brian Crabtree on Twitter. As you may have heard, Google had a major blow in the European Union this past week. $2.7 billion fine and the instructions that basically they have to stop favoring their own shopping service, acting as a monopoly while they control and manipulate most of the searching that goes on the web. Joining us now to talk about that, a favorite guest here at the Brian Crabtree Show, Michael Daugherty, senior writer for Cyber Defense Magazine. And he's also the author of the great book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government's surveillance and overreach into small businesses' cyber security. Michael, good to have you back on the show. It's been a while.
It has been, but lots been going on.
Well, there's a lot to talk about. I guess we can start with this Google $2.7 billion fine. I've been following this week, this issue, and I don't really know what I think about it. It's an antitrust initiative by the European Union, and it's almost like a slap on the business sector as a whole. How do you view this?
Well, I agree. I actually have talked about this a lot this week, and there are two sides of the coin here. I mean, Google is a company that has grown like the top tech companies. They have grown so fast right before our eyes. Now they're very, very dominant, and they've got so much cash to burn, and they lap everyone else in competition. But the other issue is they're leveraging their market power on information about us, about our habits, what we do, how we move, and that gives them an advantage that no one else can really have. And I don't even know, it's a security and privacy issue that's going to keep coming up because we're going to have to choose whether we like that or not. If they don't have that kind of power, if they can't record where we go, what we do, what we like, what we buy, then they lose a lot of their power and a lot of their value to advertisers. So this is, this is an issue in privacy and security, but it's also an issue in market dominance because, listen, Google's no little lamb. They suck up really big to Obama. They're very close to political figures, but they're like salespeople. They don't really. They're trying to get very close to the Republican Party now, who's ever in power. They really try to relationship build with governments. Not an unintelligent thing to do, but this is no clean type of situation.
Let me make a statement. Michael Daugherty, senior writer, Cyber Defense Magazine, with us, frequent guest. Let me make a statement, and feel free to disagree with me on any point at the end, vehemently or agree. My view of Google extends from what you just said. They can get political. They were political with Obama, but they seem to be apolitical at a 30,000-foot view in that they kind of kiss up to this government or they kiss up to this politician, but they don't really get into as much of the cultural, Black Lives Matter, activist kind of crap a lot of businesses wade into on frequent occasions that we see visibly. They've created one of the most brilliant forms of technology that has been meaningful and changing to our lives. I use an Android phone. I use Gmail as a primary business application. I store in the cloud, and they're one of the companies that ultimately hasn't had a massive hack. Unlike Yahoo, unlike AOL and all these other companies, they seem to have their stuff in order when it comes to defending against the major threats we face digitally this day and age. And so I therefore trust them for now. They could easily break that trust, but they seem to be a good corporate citizen, in my view, compared to the rest in terms of how they're managing where they are in the sector, in the spectrum, which is number one in almost every area. Do you disagree or agree with part of all of that?
Well, just because they haven't had a hack doesn't mean they get a halo. So I don't disagree with it, but I don't know they get any bonus time because they are they're just a pure dominator, and they will do whatever it takes for them. Their obligations are to their shareholders, and they run with that hard, and they use their power big time. And So this is what antitrust regulation is about. And I have a real problem. Look, this industry got blindsided when Microsoft got attacked a decade ago or 15 years ago. I mean, Microsoft, back then, no tech company had a presence in Washington. They didn't know a thing about Washington. Washington swooped in, changed the trajectory and the culture of Microsoft that never really recovered. So then you see Yahoo, Facebook, Google have these palatial presence in D.C., and they're doing all sorts of policy relationship stuff, and they're keeping their enemies closer, basically. Google took that to a whole new level, the way they helped Obama with his reelection. I mean, they're with him election night. So I'm not really appreciative of them sucking up to anybody for their own benefit, and that's what they do. And now they're trying to do it with. They said some big Republican bash in the Smithsonian, inviting everybody.
I will say this, Michael, and you were there. I mean, when Apple stepped out and wouldn't help, Google stepped in at the Republican National Convention. And if they were following conventional wisdom at that point, they wouldn't have bothered because Trump wasn't going to win. He didn't have a chance, and they did it anyway. So, I mean, Google I'm not giving them a halo by any stretch of the imagination. At arm's length, I trust them about as far as I can throw them. But so far, I have an inclination to use their services and to give them some deference because so far I don't see that they've abused people like Uber has or really, Apple hasn't abused people either, but to some extent, Apple's been more political active in making statements. If you do X to Georgia, when we had our bill about the religious freedom, whether you agree with that bill or not, I don't think Apple had a right to step into that fray. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree with you, but in that sense, but Google does a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. I have a friend who just went over there for public policy, and he used to work in Congress, and he's extremely conservative, and I just find them, they walk on eggshells in their self-interest, and there's a double-edged sword in that. So that's fine, but they are dominating, and they can hurt innovation. I don't know yet. I'm not saying they deserve this per se in Europe. Europe is a whole different animal. What I was going to say was, in the United States, our regulatory situation is such a mess. It's so screwed up that things like this can impact companies. And so the schmoozing works. Google got investigated by the FTC. They got a hand slap. During the investigation, the lead chairman is out with the VP having dinner. I mean, and 5 years later, someone there is going to have a job. It's just like Julie Brill worked at the FTC. She goes to big law for a year. Now she's at Microsoft. That's all inappropriate, and that's a game that's played. And
that's the kind of thing that Trump is trying to end, but to do that, he's making a lot of people upset because they realize that their little cushy government job that turns into a $2 million salary is going to end if he has his way. Michael Daugherty's with us. And
it hurts the little guy. That's it.
I know. It hurts us ultimately. Michael Daugherty with us, a cyber expert, author of the book Devil Inside the Beltway. Great book, by the way. Great story. Not a great story, but a great read of the story of what you went through that ultimately led you to becoming, unfortunately, a great cyber expert. $2.7 billion is the fine against Alphabet, which owns the unit Google. It seems to me the major issue here is that the European Commission said that what they really want them to do, the main catalyst for this, is stop favoring their own Google shopping service in search results, or face a penalty per day of up to 5% of Alphabet's average daily global turnover. So that's a pretty big fine. Ultimately saying we want you to be fair to all the other different shopping services out there and not use your dominance in search to point to just yours, but to fairly point to all the available options. Is that a good account of what this really is about?
Yeah, but there is also the privacy issue in that, because how do you think they figure out what products should go at the top of their vendors, of the people that use them? And by the way, Amazon does this all day long to authors. I mean, they punish those that don't play on their platform.
So in other words, you've got to write a book.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to write a book, which I'm in the process of doing, and I've kind of gotten this wink and a nod from a couple of people, Best thing to do is use Amazon's publishing service, because if you go to their competitors, good luck getting the position on Amazon to sell the book. Is that your take on it?
Right, and that's the game. And then they want you to use their printing, and they want you this, they want you that, and it's at some point, this is this is a difficult thing. If they have built up so much market power, that is what antitrust stuff is about. And we're still so new in this. I mean, these companies have come out of nowhere. They have grown so fast. That is hats off to ingenuity and American enterprise. Yeah. But there's a power issue here. I mean, these are not golden retrievers. These are wolves.
Well, these are, I agree with you that they're wolves. They just haven't bitten yet, per se, in my purview, in my perspective of it, maybe to other people. Let me ask you an analogy here. Back in, I think it was the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, AT&T had gotten so large, and they had all these different, factions that had to spin off the Bell companies, Bell South and Southern Bell and all that, because AT&T was determined by our antitrust operation to be a monopoly. So they had to break that sucker up. Over the course of time, ultimately, many other players came into the space, and AT&T was able to buy up companies like Bell South that used to be fairly dominant itself, and roll the spinoff Bells back into the master AT&T in some regard. Is this a situation kind of like what that was with technology and telephones back then, where this is the new technology and Google has just?
I think it's moves so much faster. These guys have a different type of power because this is consumer power, not a product power. This is impacting consumer choice, so it's a little different. And I was never a big AT&T breakup fan. Because it's how they define it, but that was typical government, whereas, and this is an interesting thing because the European regulators are known for having many more laws on the books, but they're also known for not being bullies to the little, which you could chuckle at because this seems a very brutal thing, but they don't mess around. I mean, Google's not going to get anywhere taking anyone for dinner in the EU. And
well, they will here.
So the AT&T thing is, I just think it's an older world example because it just moves so slow, and the government defined it a certain way, and that was ridiculous. And a lot of good that did. Well, anyway, I mean, look what happened.
This is not really, but from a standpoint of Google, they're about $1,000 a share. I haven't followed their share price this week, but this really isn't an existential threat, is it? Or and if it is, what should, in your view, the European Union and the Commission have done here? And what does this say about America? What should we do?
I don't think this is an existential threat. I mean, it's just like, look, make money some other way, folks. Don't go taking consumer choice away from people. And it really depends on. Look, we do go to Google. I mean, I won't go to Bing.
I had to go. I wanted to post a review, a negative one, on a company this past week, and I wanted to be really as egregious as I could because they deserved it. And so I went to Yahoo. For the first time in 2 years, I didn't know what Yahoo is anymore, and that was the biggest search engine for a while. Everything I do is Google, and that scares me a little bit. But they also are the best at it. So on one hand, they're the best, and I believe if you are the best, you deserve the fruits of being the best.
That's fine. I don't think that's the point.
But wait a minute, Michael. But the thing is, they're also so powerful, it's chilling. I mean, Google could decide anything and make it be so instantly, and we'd all believe it because they ultimately control the massive data of everything in our country. I mean, should we be concerned about that? And if so, what do we do?
Yeah, that's the big concern. That's exactly it. This is not about, you can use whatever search engine you want, but they're using information about you to give you a unique experience, and they're the decider. Their being the decider is what the problem is. Because not only being the decider, which is not an antitrust issue, that's a privacy and security issue, and that's new. But their being decider is becoming an antitrust issue because that is a monopolistic type power that no one else has advantage over, and they're pounding and squashing innovation for others. That's what the concern will be. That's what the concern will be later with Amazon as well. Not yet. See how they conduct themselves. Innovation's one thing, and that's great. And if that creates pain, oh well. as we say to the fast food workers who complained and now have robots, that's an oh well. The government can't intervene on that. But the type of thing that's going on here, when they're taking all your information, customizing your experience, deciding what will come up for you, then putting their people at the top, that's pushing it.
I'm out of time.
Because they've lapped everybody 7 times before anyone else even starts.
I'm out of time, but if what you've just said worries the hell out of one of my listeners and they want to do something about it, what can they simply do to keep Google from being so in charge of their life? Do you use something else, or you bounce back and forth?
I think good luck, and also I really would that this is a nonpartisan issue and you value your privacy. It's a tough situation.
So there's nothing they can do other than just...
Not immediately, no.
No.
Unless you want to get off the internet.
Be vigilant. Understand you are being manipulated, followed, and watched, and make sure you understand that does impact the results you're seeing on any subject matter, shopping or otherwise. Okay.
Yeah, comparative shop on your search engine.
Michael Daugherty, great writer, The Devil Inside the Beltway. Always a pleasure having you on. We'll have you back sooner this time.
All right.
Take care.
The Brian Crabtree Show on Demand is brought to you by The Outlet Online. Huge savings on items you want. It's a big deal. TheOutletOnline.com. The Brian Crabtree Show, live in Atlanta, afternoon starting at 4 on Biz 1190, Biz1190.com, and the Biz 1190 mobile app.